My family said I was a failure. I came to my sister's wedding only to find my place card with my name at the farthest table. I sat in silence, and then her fiancé looked at me. "Wait," he said. "Are you Nelly Mishi, the tech millionaire?" They went pale. "Thank you for being here with me today. I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. I'd love for you to share in the comments what city or country you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Let's begin our story together." I was sitting in my home office, debugging code for a client project, when my laptop chimed with a new email notification. The sound made me look up from my screen, and I noticed it had arrived in my old Gmail account, the one I'd set up in high school and barely used anymore. The subject line immediately caught my attention: wedding invitation, Sarah and Michael. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the sender's name, Sarah Johnson, my younger sister. I clicked on the email, and my screen filled with an elegant wedding invitation decorated with soft blush roses and gold accents. The elegant calligraphy read, "Sarah Johnson and Michael Rohr request the pleasure of your company at the celebration of their marriage on Saturday, the 15th of June at 6 o'clock in the evening at the Grand Ballroom, Riverside Hotel, our hometown." Below the formal invitation was a personal message from Sarah. "Hi Nelly. I hope this email finds you well. I'm sorry to contact you through your old email address, but I don't have your current phone number or address. I found this email in my old high school contacts. I'm getting married next month, and despite everything that happened between our family, I really want you to be there. It would mean a lot to me to have my only sister at my wedding. I know it's been over 10 years since we last spoke, but I hope you'll consider coming. Please let me know if you can attend. Sarah." I stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling a mix of emotions I hadn't expected. It had been 12 years since I last spoke to any member of my family. 12 years since I walked out of that house and never looked back. Sarah would be 28 now. When I left home, she was only 16. I wondered what she looked like now, if she had changed much. The last time I saw her, she was that spoiled teenager who always got everything she wanted. I leaned back in my chair and considered whether I should reply. Part of me wanted to just delete the email and pretend I never saw it. But another part of me was curious. Sarah was getting married, and she wanted me there. Maybe she had matured. Maybe things had changed. After sitting there for about 20 minutes, I decided to reply. I kept it simple. "Hi Sarah, congratulations on your engagement. I'll be there for your wedding. Looking forward to seeing you after all these years. Nelly." I hit send before I could change my mind. The next few weeks flew by as I prepared for the trip. I had to clear my schedule, which meant rescheduling some client meetings and pushing back some project deadlines. My assistant helped me arrange everything. I spent some time thinking about what gift to buy Sarah and her fiancé. I didn't want to go overboard, but I also didn't want to appear cheap. I finally settled on a beautiful Tiffany crystal vase. Elegant, expensive enough to show I cared, but not so flashy that it would attract too much attention. It cost me about $500, which wasn't much to me these days, but I thought it was a nice gesture. The day before the wedding, I flew back to my hometown for the first time in a decade. I took a cab from the airport to the downtown Marriott. After checking in, I unpacked my suitcase and hung up the dress I'd brought for the wedding. It was a simple navy blue dress, well-made but not ostentatious. I'd learned over the years that sometimes the most expensive clothes are the ones that look the most understated. That evening, I ordered room service and tried to mentally prepare myself for seeing my family again. I wondered if my parents would be surprised to see me. I wondered if they had changed at all, or if they would still be the same people who had kicked their 18-year-old daughter out of the house with nowhere to go. I thought about calling Sarah to let her know I was in town, but I decided against it. I'd see her tomorrow at the wedding. That would be soon enough. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run through the downtown area. After my run, I returned to the hotel, showered, and spent the afternoon relaxing. I read a book, watched some TV, and tried not to think too much about what the evening would bring. Around 4 o'clock, I started getting ready. I carefully applied my makeup. Not too much, but enough to look polished. I pulled my hair back in a simple updo and put on the navy blue dress with a pair of pearl earrings I'd bought a few years ago. Looking at myself in the hotel room mirror, I thought I looked good, professional, put together, but not trying too hard. I grabbed Sarah's gift from the dresser and called a cab to take me to the Riverside Hotel. The Riverside Hotel looked exactly as I remembered it from my childhood. My parents had taken us there for dinner a few times when I was younger, usually for special occasions. The grand ballroom was on the second floor, and I could hear music and laughter coming from inside as I walked down the hallway. As I entered the room, I immediately started recognizing faces. There was my Aunt Margaret, looking older but still with that same bright smile. Uncle Bob was standing by the bar, his hair completely white now. My cousin Jennifer was talking to a group of people by the windows. She must be in her early 30s now, probably married with kids. I moved further into the room, and that's when people started noticing me. Aunt Margaret was the first to approach. "Nellie, my goodness, is that really you?" she said, rushing over to give me a hug. But when she pulled away, I noticed something strange in her expression. It wasn't just surprise. There was something else there. Pity, maybe. "Hi, Aunt Margaret. You look great," I said, forcing a smile. "Oh, honey, you look—" She paused, looking me up and down. "You look good too. Really good, actually. Better than I expected." Better than expected? What did that mean? Before I could ask, Uncle Bob had joined us. "Nellie, well, I'll be. Sarah said you might come, but we weren't sure. How are you, kiddo?" "I'm fine, Uncle Bob. How have you been?" "Can't complain. Still working at the factory, you know, same old, same old." He seemed uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot. "So, how are things going? Did you ever find a decent place to live? Your mother mentioned you were having some trouble with that. You know, finding an apartment and all. And work? Are you still looking for a steady job?" What on earth was he talking about? I own my own company, lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs. Why would he think I was having trouble finding an apartment? "I'm doing fine, Uncle Bob. Really well." Aunt Margaret leaned in closer and lowered her voice. "And what about that husband of yours? Did things ever work out with him?" Oh, now I was completely lost. "What husband?" They exchanged a look I didn't understand. "Well, we just heard." "Never mind, dear. We're glad you're here and that you're doing okay," Aunt Margaret said, patting my arm in a way that felt condescending. More relatives started approaching. Cousins I hadn't seen since high school, family friends who remembered me as a teenager. And each of them had that same look in their eyes, that look of pity, as if they felt sorry for me. My cousin Jennifer came over with her husband, a guy I didn't recognize. "Nellie, wow, it's been ages. How are you doing?" she asked. How was I doing? "I'm great, Jennifer. How are you?" I'm good. Married now, obviously," she said, flashing her wedding ring. "2 kids, living in the suburbs, you know, the whole American dream thing." She paused. "Are you still? I mean, did you ever recover after?" I was getting increasingly confused and frustrated by the minute. What divorce? What job situation? What was everyone talking about? "I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding," I started to say, but Jennifer was already turning away. "Well, I'm glad you made it to the wedding. Sarah will be so happy to see you." As she walked off, I stood there trying to process what was happening. Everyone was acting like I was some kind of charity case, like they expected me to be broke and desperate. Where were they getting this information? I decided to stop trying to figure it out and just find my seat. I walked around the room, looking for a table with my name on it. I checked the tables near the front. Nothing. I looked at the tables in the center of the room. Still nothing. I walked toward the head table, where I could see my parents and Sarah in her white wedding dress. As I got closer, my heart started beating faster. It had been 10 years since I'd seen any of them. My father saw me first. He was wearing a black tuxedo and looked older, his hair mostly gray now. When our eyes met, his expression shifted from casual conversation to something I couldn't quite decipher. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort. "Dad?" I said as I approached the table. "Nellie." He stood up and gave me a stiff hug. "You came." "Of course I came. Sarah invited me." My mother turned around then, and I saw her face for the first time in a decade. She looked older, more worn down than I remembered, but she was smiling. It wasn't a genuine smile, though. It was the fake smile she used to put on for visitors when I was a kid. "Nellie, dear, we're so glad you could make it," she said, getting up to hug me. The hug felt as fake as her smile. Then Sarah turned around. She looked beautiful in her wedding dress, elegant and happy. But when she saw me, her expression changed to something that looked almost like disappointment. "Nellie," she said, looking me up and down critically. Well, you look the same as always, I guess. Kind of plain and simple, like always." She paused, and then added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "But I'm glad you're here. At least now you can see how successful people do weddings for real." The comment stung like a slap, but I kept my expression neutral. This was Sarah's wedding day, and I wasn't going to make a scene. Congratulations, Sarah. You look beautiful, I said simply. My mother quickly intervened, taking my arm. Come on, dear, let me show you to your table. She led me back across the ballroom, past all the other tables, to the farthest corner, where I'd found my place card with my name on it. Here you are, dear, she said, still with that fake smile. The closer tables are for the closer family and the more successful guests. You understand. I understood perfectly. They put me in the back, as far away from the important people as possible. I sat down at my assigned table and watched as the wedding ceremony began. As I sat there, surrounded by strangers and feeling completely out of place, my mind started to wander back to the past. I started to remember why I hadn't spoken to my family in over 10 years. Growing up, it was always crystal clear that Sarah was the favorite child. Our parents didn't even try to hide it. When Sarah was 7 and decided she wanted to play the piano, they bought a brand new upright piano and paid for private lessons twice a week. When I was 14 and asked if I could take the free after-school programming classes at the community center, my mother said I should focus on more practical skills like cooking and cleaning. For every birthday, Sarah had elaborate parties with themes and decorations. My birthdays were usually just cake after dinner, if they remembered it all. Sarah got a car for her 16th birthday, a pretty red Honda Civic. When I turned 16, I was told I could walk or take the bus. But I found my own way. I discovered the free coding club at school and dedicated myself to learning everything I could. I was good at it, really good. The teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, said I had a natural talent and encouraged me to keep learning. I started helping neighbors fix their computers and set up their phones, earning $20 or $30 here and there. By the time I graduated high school, I had applied to several universities on my own. I'd worked hard to get good grades, hoping to qualify for scholarships. The day after my graduation, my parents called me into the living room for a talk. I thought maybe they wanted to congratulate me or discuss my college plans. Nellie, you're 18 now, my father said. You're an adult, and it's time you started acting like one. We don't have the money to send you to college, my mother added. We need to focus our resources on Sarah's education. She has real potential. Besides, you need to move out. We can't have you living here like a freeloader while Sarah is trying to focus on her studies. She needs her space. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Move out. Where was I supposed to go? That's your problem. You'll have to figure it out, my mother said coldly. You're 18. You should have been thinking about this already. I begged them to give me just a few weeks to save up money for an apartment deposit, but they wouldn't budge. My mother said I had until the end of the week. 3 days later, I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and a backpack. My friend Jessica's parents were out of town, so she let me stay at their house while I sorted things out. A week after moving in with Jessica, I received the acceptance letters I'd been waiting for. I'd been accepted to 4 universities, and one of them, a school in the neighboring state, offered me a full scholarship plus room and board. When Jessica's parents returned from their vacation, they learned what had happened and were horrified. Mr. and Mrs. Chun had known me since elementary school and had always treated me like a second daughter. They gave me $3,000 to help me get settled and drove me to the airport themselves. I remember Mrs. Chun hugging me goodbye and saying, "Make us proud, honey. Show them what they're missing." College was tough at first. I worked 2 part-time jobs while maintaining my grades, but I loved every minute of it. I was studying computer science, and I finally felt like I was where I belonged. In my junior year, I met David in my advanced programming class. He was smart, funny, and shared my passion for technology. We started studying together, then dating, and by senior year, we were inseparable. We got married right after graduation, a simple courthouse ceremony with just a few friends present. I took his last name, Michigan, and we moved to Silicon Valley to start our careers. We both got jobs at tech companies, but our real dream was to create something of our own. We spent our evenings and weekends working on revolutionary software that would optimize database management for large corporations. After 2 years of development, we had something incredible. We pitched it to several major companies and ended up selling it to IBM for $12 million. $12 million. With that money, we started our own software development company. We were young, ambitious, and suddenly very wealthy. Our company grew rapidly, taking on bigger and bigger clients. Within 5 years, we were worth over $50 million combined. But success couldn't save our marriage. We drifted apart as we focused more on the business than on each other. After 8 years together, we realized we were better as business partners than as husband and wife. We divorced amicably, splitting our assets evenly. David and I remained friends and continued running the company together. Now, at 30, my personal net worth was around $30 million. I had a beautiful house, drove a luxury car, and my company was respected throughout the industry. I'd been featured in several tech magazines and had even given a few keynote speeches at conferences. But my family knew none of this. They had no idea who I had become or what I had accomplished. I snapped back to the present as the wedding ceremony ended and people started clapping. My parents stood up at the head table, and my father took the microphone. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate Sarah and Michael's special day," he began. "As Sarah's father, I couldn't be more proud of the woman she's become." He went on to talk about Sarah's accomplishments, her marketing degree, her job at an advertising agency, her wonderful personality. Then my mother took the microphone and gushed about Michael, the groom, and how perfect he was for Sarah. Michael's parents spoke next, thanking everyone for coming and welcoming Sarah to their family. Just as my father was about to wrap up the speeches, someone from the back of the room shouted, "What about Nellie? She should say something too." I froze. I could see my parents' faces change. They clearly didn't want this to happen. Sarah looked annoyed, but the crowd was looking at me expectantly, and my father couldn't really refuse without seeming rude. "Of course," he said with a forced smile. "Nellie, would you like to say a few words?" All eyes in the room turned to me as I stood up and walked to the front. My heart was pounding, but I kept my expression calm. Michael, the groom, handed me the microphone with a smile. But just as I was about to take it, he paused and looked at me more closely. "Wait a minute," he said, still holding the microphone close to his mouth so everyone could hear. "Are you Nellie Mishi? The Nellie Mishi, owner of Mishi and Tech Solutions?" The entire ballroom went silent. I smiled and nodded. "Yes, that's me." Michael's face lit up with genuine excitement. "Oh my God, I can't believe it. You're like a legend in the tech industry. I've read about your work in Forbes and TechCrunch. This is incredible." He was still speaking into the microphone, so his words echoed throughout the silent ballroom. I could see my parents and Sarah frozen at the head table, their faces registering absolute shock. Everyone else in the room was staring at me, wide-eyed. "It's such an honor to meet you," Michael continued. "Your database management software revolutionized the way we handle enterprise data. Mishi and Tech. I mean, you've worked with Google, Microsoft, Amazon. This is unreal." The room erupted in whispers and murmurs. I took the microphone from Michael, who was practically beaming. "Thank you, Michael. That's very kind of you." I looked out at the crowd, then at my family. "I just want to congratulate Sarah and Michael. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness together." I kept my speech short and sweet. Then I handed back the microphone and started to walk back to my table. But before I could sit down, my mother appeared at my side. "Nellie, dear," she said, in the sweetest voice I'd ever heard her use. "Why don't you come sit with us at the head table? We have room for you, with the family." I looked at her fake smile and shook my head. "No thanks, Mom. I'm comfortable where I am." I returned to my table in the back corner, and as I walked, I could hear everyone whispering about me. The elderly woman sitting next to me, who I'd learned was my great-aunt Helen, leaned in. "Dear, I had no idea who you were," she said. "Your parents told everyone you were struggling. They said you were living in a rundown apartment, working a dead-end job, and that you'd married a drug-addicted alcoholic who left you with nothing." Suddenly, everything made sense. The looks of pity, the questions about finding an apartment and a job, the comments about my husband. My parents had been telling everyone I was a complete failure. I just smiled and shook my head. "People say a lot of things, Aunt Helen." The reception continued, but I could feel everyone's eyes on me. People kept coming up to introduce themselves and ask about my work. Some of the younger guests recognized my name from tech blogs and wanted to take selfies. I stayed for about another hour, making polite conversation and watching Sarah and Michael dance, but the whole atmosphere felt toxic. I'd had enough. I quietly slipped out of the ballroom and called a cab back to my hotel. Once in my room, I immediately went online and booked a flight home for the next morning. I just wanted to get out of there. Around 9 o'clock that night, my phone rang. It was an unknown local number. "Hello. Hi, Nellie. It's Mom. I got this number. Michael gave it to me." He got it from some of his friends in the tech industry. Her voice was sickeningly sweet. Honey, we need to talk. Your father and I would love for you to come over for dinner tomorrow before you leave. We want to reconnect with you. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. Seriously? You want to reconnect now, after you find out I have money? It's not that. We always cared about you. We just didn't know how to contact you. They didn't know how to contact me. They didn't care enough to try. There's a difference, Mom. She started making excuses, talking about how they thought I wanted space and how they were respecting my wishes. Cut the crap, I said. I know what you told everyone about me. Helen filled me in. You told the whole family I was living in a slum, married to an addict, struggling to find work. You painted me as a complete loser. We were just worried about you. We didn't know what was going on in your life, so they made up stories. They told people I was a failure because that's what they wanted to believe. My mother started stammering, trying to backpedal. We were just kidding. You know how families talk. I'm done with this conversation, and I'm done with all of you, I said firmly. Don't contact me again. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Within 15 minutes, my phone was buzzing with text messages from other unknown numbers. My father, Sarah, even a few cousins. I knew they all wanted to talk now that they knew I was successful. I blocked each number without reading most of the messages. The next morning, I flew home, feeling relieved. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I received another email from Sarah. This one wasn't sweet or apologetic like her wedding invitation had been. Nellie, it began. I've done some digging, and I found out exactly how rich you are. You're worth millions, and meanwhile, your family is struggling. We took out a $50,000 loan for my wedding, and it's only fair that you pay it back. For someone like you, that's pocket change, but for us, it's everything. You owe us this after abandoning your family for 10 years. We're your family, and family helps family. I expect the money transferred by next week. I stared at the email in disbelief. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. They wanted me to pay for Sarah's wedding because I could afford it. I replied immediately, Sarah, I'm not paying for your wedding or any other expenses. You want to know why? Because for 10 years, you and our parents called me a loser behind my back. You told everyone I was a failure living in poverty, married to an addict. Well, guess what? Losers don't help their families. If I'm such a failure, why would you want my money? Don't contact me again. If you do, I will be speaking to my lawyer about harassment charges. I hit send, and then I blocked her email address too. That was 6 months ago, and I haven't heard from any of them since. I guess the threat of legal action scared them off. Now I'm back to my normal life, running my company, working on new projects, and enjoying my success. I'm better off for what happened. Honestly, I'm grateful that wedding showed me exactly who my family is and confirmed that I made the right decision cutting them out of my life 10 years ago. There are some people worth keeping in your life, even if they are your family. I learned that lesson a long time ago, and Sarah's wedding just reminded me how true it still is. I'm much better off without them, and I always will be.